In 1922, a man opened a door that had been sealed for 3,000 years. What he found inside was the greatest treasure ever discovered in the history of the world. But the treasure was not what killed him. It was what was protecting it. 3,000 years ago, Egypt was the most powerful empire the world had ever seen. Its kings were not men. They were gods, walking the earth in human skin. And of all the pharaohs who ever ruled, none would become more famous, more mysterious, more dangerous than a boy who became king at the age of 9. His name was Tutankhamun, the living image of Amun, the son of the sun, the boy who died before he ever truly lived, and who swore that no one would ever disturb his eternal rest. When Tutankhamun died at 19, the priests moved fast. For 70 days, they prepared his body. They wrapped him in linen soaked in sacred oils. They placed his organs in golden jars. They covered his face with a mask of solid gold, so perfect, so beautiful, it looked more alive than any living face. And then they filled his tomb, not just with treasure, with everything a god would need to rule the afterlife forever. Chariots of gold, thrones of ivory and ebony, weapons, wine, oils, jewels, 5,000 objects, each one priceless. And when the last torch was carried out, the door was sealed, the name was buried, the king was forgotten. 3,000 years passed. Empires rose and fell, languages were born and died. The desert swallowed the tomb completely, and Tutankhamun slept. Until a man named Marcus Hale arrived. He was not an archaeologist. He had no university degree, no government approval, no permission from anyone. He was a treasure hunter, the best in the world, and the most ruthless. He had spent 12 years chasing one rumor, that somewhere beneath the Valley of the Kings, a tomb had never been opened, a tomb full of more gold than any man had ever seen. And tonight, staring at his maps by lamplight, he was certain he had finally found it. He hired 40 men from the local village to help him dig. They worked for 2 days, 2 days of shovels and sweat under the punishing Egyptian sun. And then, on the 3rd morning, one of the workers struck stone. A step, carved from bedrock, leading down. The men dropped their tools. One by one, they backed away. An elder among them, a man who had worked these sands his whole life, grabbed Marcus by the arm. "This place has a name," he said. "The priests called it the place of truth. And anyone who breaks that truth, the king will break them." Marcus pulled his arm free, picked up the shovel himself, and kept digging. 16 steps carved into the living rock, each one taking him further from the sun, further from the world of the living. The air changed on the 4th step. It became cold. Not the cold of the desert night, something older, something still. On the 8th step, he heard it for the first time. A sound, distant, low, almost like a voice, but not quite. He told himself it was the wind. On the 16th step, he reached the door, and carved into the stone above it, in hieroglyphics 3,000 years old, were the words, "Death shall come on swift wings to he who disturbs the peace of the king." He read it, he understood it, and he pressed his shoulder to the door. The door opened, and Marcus Hale, one of the hardest men alive, stopped breathing. Gold, everywhere. Glittering in the torchlight like a second sun had been buried underground. golden beds, golden chariots, golden thrones. Statues of gods standing guard in every corner. Alabaster jars, jeweled necklaces, shields of hammered bronze. 3,000 years of dust lay undisturbed on every surface. No human being had breathed this air since the priests sealed the door and walked away into history. Marcus raised his torch higher, and in the far wall he saw a second door, smaller, sealed with black wax and a royal cartouche. Behind it, the king himself was waiting. He broke the second seal. Inside the burial chamber, the air was even colder, even older. 4 golden shrines nested inside each other, like the layers of the earth itself. Marcus peeled them back one by one with trembling hands, until he reached the innermost coffin. Solid gold, 240 pounds of it, shaped perfectly into the body of a young king, with his arms crossed over his chest. And on his face, the mask. 11 kilograms of pure gold, inlaid with lapis lazuli and carnelian. Eyes of obsidian that had not seen light in 3,000 years. Marcus reached out to touch it, and the torch went out. Total darkness. Marcus fumbled for his matches. His hands were shaking so badly he dropped the box, and in that darkness, he heard breathing. Not his own. Slow, deliberate. The breathing of something that had been asleep for 3,000 years and had just woken up. The temperature dropped so fast, his breath turned to mist in the darkness. He heard the whispers then, not in any language he knew. Ancient, rhythmic, growing louder. He finally struck a match, and in the 1 second of light it gave him, he saw what was standing in the corner of the burial chamber. And he screamed. Marcus could not move. His feet were stone. His lungs had forgotten how to work. The figure moved toward him, slowly, without sound, as if it existed outside the rules that governed the physical world. The golden eyes found his, and Marcus Hale, who had never feared anything in 40 years of living, understood for the first time in his life what it truly meant to be afraid.
You have touched what belongs to eternity. You have breathed the air of the gods. You have broken the seal of 3,000 years. And now you will stay here with me forever.
They found his camp the next morning. His maps, his tools, his notes. Everything exactly as he had left it. His coffee cup still half full, still warm. But Marcus himself was gone. No body, no footprints leading away, no sign of struggle, nothing. As if he had simply ceased to exist. The authorities searched for 3 weeks. They found the stone steps. They found the open door. They found the treasure. All 5,000 pieces of it. Exactly where it had always been. Undisturbed. And the golden death mask was back on the face of the king, as if no one had ever touched it. As if Marcus Hale had never existed at all. The tomb was sealed again. The steps were buried. The desert smoothed itself flat, as if the sand itself was trying to forget. The treasure of Tutankhamun is still down there, 3,000 years old, waiting. And the king is still down there too, patient, eternal, watching the door. They say the curse of the Pharaoh never truly dies. It simply waits for the next one, brave enough or foolish enough to come looking.